Hi everyone, it's my absolute joy and pleasure to welcome Astrologer Kelley Hunter to the channel. And Kelley is a PhD, she's an astrologer, she loves to dive deep into mythology, she's known also as an astromythologist, and she's one of the tiny handful of astrologers that I'm aware of who's done a lot of research into the Kuiper Belt objects, way out in space, largely beyond the orbit of Pluto and Neptune. So I came across Kelley, I believe, Kelley, it was the end of 2020, and I listened to your presentation via the Cosmic Intelligence Agency on the Kuiper Belt.
Yes, that was in April of 2020.
Oh, it was April, okay. And it was the first I'd heard of them, really, and I was absolutely electrified. I listened to that several times. I was just electrified because I thought, this is the way humanity is going. This is the next evolution of consciousness. And I just loved it. And then you've done a more recent one talking about 2022, and I equally loved that. So because there's so few of you researching these objects in far space, I really had to invite you along to share your expertise. And I think you'd like to talk about the new moon coming up on April 1st. Like to share with us both with our planets, and then going beyond to something where you can really help people to understand what these are about.
Well, aren't all of the new moons and full moons pretty intense lately? And they add their whole amplification of what we're going through and the levels of consciousness that we're invited into. So we're going to take the new moon energy and add in a pattern I noticed that is worth talking about to give us more information about that new moon on April 1st. And I have some slides to help us get imagery, which I use a lot in my work. I use imagery and art because I think that helps us get it on another level. And so let me share what I've got here to show you. One more button, I think, to click. Here we go. Okay, so I have placed this. I have a different program than you, and I have placed this in London just so people can be consistent in what they're seeing. And this is the new moon pattern for April 1st. And I say that's pretty much of a chunk of planets in one place there, specifically the Aquarian, Pisces, Aries, kind of embraced by Pluto and Uranus in Earth signs. So we've got that going. And when we add in this particular pattern I noticed with 3 of the Kuiper Belt objects, here's what we get. We get a lot more dynamism with this T-square here. So let us just zero in on this T-square with the Kuiper Belt objects and see who they are and what they are offering here. So there we are. We have that new moon at 11 of Aries, sandwiched by Mercury and Chiron. So I'm sure you've talked about this combination because it is definitely an alternative level of consciousness shift coming in. Thank you, Orcas, for adding in your note and your beauty. And this is a quantum shift. I think of Chiron as offering an alternative, an alignment of spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical, and this be here now energy being so important, and with that integrity and clarity of Aries. And Mercury there, messenger of the gods, we are getting new information. And right next to Mercury, we see one of the Kuiper Belt objects. And can you tell that the symbol looks a little bit like a seashell? So that is Salacia, and I prefer to call her Salacia or Salacia because I think that kind of oceany articulation is a little more true to her nature, and it also kind of overcomes the kind of, salacious intimations that people associate with that word that actually means, well, we'll get to that in my slide. But first, let me show you what we have in Capricorn, which is Quaoar. Quaoar is from the Tongva people in the Los Angeles area who have been in that area for thousands of years and are still there. And there are a lot of signs of them in the land, and there are petroglyphs, and there's attributions to the Quaoar people that still have ceremony. And we have Quaoar in Capricorn also at 7 degrees, as we see Salacia at 7 degrees. And then we have a third one in Libra, and that is Makemake from the Rapa Nui people on Easter Island. We call it Easter Island, but they call that island Rapa Nui, also at 7 degrees. So we have a pretty precise T-square going on here of these 3 Kuiper Belt objects that are, they have certain things in common, but they all offer their own unique cultural background, and also their own unique themes that we can explore here, starting with Salacia, the saltwater mermaid who makes the sunlight to sparkle on the sea. I wish I had the sea behind me and to show how it sparkles here in the Virgin Islands where I am right now. But Salacia is certainly present, and she married Neptune. Now, her story is lovely because she was a delightful mermaid. If she makes the sunlight to sparkle on the sea, that's uplifting and delightful. And Neptune fell in love with her. But she didn't believe that. She thought, oh, he's just flirting with me. He's king of the sea. He can't be serious, and I'm not about flirting. So she went into another part of the ocean. And Neptune was bereft. And he sent a dolphin to go talk to her and tell her, no, he's serious. He wants. And they had a mermaid daughter named Octea, one of the moon of Salacia. Some of these Kuiper Belt objects have moons, which I think of as attributes of the basic energy of say, Salacia. She has an extra mermaid dimension there. And some of the Kuiper Belt objects are binary systems. So, that's another, kind of, mythic, not just attributes, but a storyline that involves 2 energies interplaying. But Salacia has the moon. And most of these Kuiper Belt objects, if not all of them, I think, were not discovered until the new millennium here in the 2000s. And we see that Salacia was discovered in 2004. Because of her mythic story, I think of her themes as representing, this deep honoring of herself and her sense of self, which is so appropriate in the sign of Aries, which is about self-clarity and integrity. And she certainly demonstrates that. And it's a deep emotional questioning, like, what is right for me? How am I feeling about this? How am I responding to life and what's coming into my world? So she can be a bit elusive because she goes away. And then, that Salacia pronunciation of her name refers to that word salacious, that means that erotic sensuality that mermaids have, that evokes that sense of erotic, not meaning only specifically sexuality, but the life force, how the life force emerges in us. Now, Eros was the god who emerged from chaos with the earth, Gaia. And isn't that where we are now, in a kind of level of chaos? And so it's really nice to have, a mermaid along to evoke that erotic passion and love of life, and that sparkles. So, and, we are in this area of the galaxy right now where we're having these huge waves, photon waves, plasma waves, whatever we want to call them, with more light photons in them. And this, to me, is part of the shimmering, the glittering, the sparkling that Salacia is offering, even from the cosmic energy and the cosmic waves that are coming in. And I live generally in Vermont, where we get a lot of snow. And when the full moon is glittering on a field of snow, I see Salacia there too, maybe because I miss the sea when I'm away from it.
It's so beautiful, Kelley. I mentioned in my update, it's very interesting because that glittering, shimmering of light on the sea is, I very much see as photon light as well. And I've come across a term, it's a form of plasma. It's a superfluid called liquid light. And it's when plasma takes a certain form and it becomes liquid light before it becomes more solid, as it were. But there's something about it being conjunct Mercury, which is really talking about a whole evolution in our mental processing as well.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It's a whole jump in mental processing away from the mundane.
And this is informing that. And when you say, the liquid before it becomes solid, I know you've referred to the wave and particle energy of physics and of our reality. And I think of the Kuiper Belt objects as evoking the fifth element, ether. Wow. In many cultures, I learned about it through Buddhism, and that there's a physical ether and a non-physical ether. And so I think of the Kuiper Belt objects and these indigenous creator gods bringing that invisible energy into physicality, and we can co-create with that. That is our intention when we tap into and relate to these energies. And, we can choose what ones we like. We can kind of work with which ones are active right now, which Salacia has been even since she went in to Aries over the course of 2016 into 2017. They are like slow movers. So it takes a while for them to transition into a new sign, like Pluto, that I call king of the Kuiper Belt. It's the first and still the largest, as far as I have known. And so when Salacia went into Aries, the Aries point, this was a new opening. And when Chiron went into Aries in 2018 and 2019, Salacia was there to welcome Chiron. And they're still like conjuncting on this moon. They're still, in range to make this sparkle, this glitter, this I like the delightfulness. She is just a lovely, don't you want her, in your life? So that is, you can see the ephemeris here, and listeners can look at where their Salacia might be. Just to kind of get a sense of, before you look at it more specifically of where your Salacia is and what sign it's adding the glitter to. So yeah, there is a kind of fluidity and sparkling light that's so much a part of Salacia. And there's a designation of her name called Salacia Neptuni, which means the effervescence of Neptune. And I just love that. So she is just a delightful energy to involve ourselves with and tap into for this extraordinary new moon that's already a shift of consciousness. So this is Kelley, adding to it.
Do you see that some healing could occur? Is this a stepping stone to healing with light?
Oh, yes.
That's
sometimes when I watch the sunlight sparkling on the sea, I'm wondering, is it some kind of Morse code, and that shimmering, and if you swim in the sea, you can actually swim right into that light. And it is certainly offering the healing through light. Absolutely. And that's what we are being asked to embody more of that light. So, as we invite it in, it has that shimmering quality that sometimes I feel like I can hear it.
Wow. But I can imagine
certainly feel it.
How the light is raising our frequency, and that in turn would help us heal as well. Beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. So it's nice to be, seeing the sparkles wherever you see them. And sometimes you can just see them in the air. And there might be more of this kind of phenomenon, in the air, that we can kind of see this light in a new way, this new perception of it.
The light in the UK, and we're not known for fabulous weather here, because it's been so grey this winter, but the light has been extraordinary over the equinox. I mean, it's just been sparkly, diamond, brilliant white, a kind of light I've never seen before through yesterday. And it's here again today, and hopefully it will continue. But I think because there's just so much photonic light and energy coming into us right now.
Yes.
And it's changed the quality of literally what we're seeing. It's amazing.
Yeah, that full moon leading into equinox. I was under the moon on the eve of equinox, and I have never experienced such an intensely bright moon. It was almost like too much. I almost wanted to hide from it. But there we were, and we were in the open air watching the moon go across the sky with that intensity. And yes, how much light can we handle? Let's open up, let's surrender. And some of these other Kuiper Belt objects are going to help us do that. So let's look at Quaoar, which is the creator spirit of the Tongva people from the Los Angeles area. And they lived on the coast, they lived on the sea. So this culture also was very tuned in to the sea and the water and the fluidity of life, where they really took their life from too. And Quaoar was said to have danced and sung all of creation into being. And the ceremonies that we do together in groups do exactly that. And we don't need a group to dance with, do we, to celebrate life? And so if we are moving and we are dancing and singing with this energy, it helps us actually, I think, take in more of that light and dance with that light and feel the energy and the geometric fractals and how the light wants to come through us, especially with Uranus and Taurus as well. We are asked to embody higher consciousness now in a fuller, deeper way. So moving with our bodies and singing, even with our bodies being the instrument, that helps amplify our voice. This is wonderful. The chanting, the singing, the moving in whatever way you feel that energy coming through you is going to really help us to integrate this energy coming in. And just to get the pronunciation of Quaoar is, I'm not sure I'm saying it exactly right. And Quaoar, the first creations were grandfather, sun, and mother, grandmother moon. And one of the moons so far of Quaoar is named Waywat, which was the grandfather energy. Now, the graphic you're seeing is a friend did this, who was born in this area and went to I think it was the Los Angeles School of the Arts or something that has Tongva petroglyphs on their property. So she did this web collage to kind of evoke the Quaoar energy. And I think of Quaoar as, kind of helping to embody, manifest, create from those codes of life that all of the Kuiper Belt objects tune into, because that's the original manifestations, the original codes that nature observes. So there's a kind of originality, a spontaneity, a creative engagement here, definitely with the sound and light vibrations that many traditions say, created life through sound and light. So we are looking at all of these living codes that are what all of the Kuiper Belt objects work with in some ways, I think.
Now, I love the part, Kelley, about forming geometry, because it's almost the higher our frequency, the more coherent the geometry we can form to produce a much better reality. So I'm really sort of seeing Quaoar in that way, because it's creating through joy, isn't it? It's creating through
celebration, joy, appreciation of life, and just dancing with that. You know, and that's a kind of another erotic energy. This is the life force coming through us.
Yeah, beautiful. It was really beautiful.
Yes, especially in Capricorn, right? And Capricorn is so much about the patterning and the forms and structures that are natural, and the traditional peoples really lived within those sacred geometries.
Yeah, beautiful.
So Quaoar went into Capricorn only, in 2017 into 18. And, was very strong during those eclipses in January and 2020 that kind of inaugurated our passage that we've been going through in these last couple of years. So Quaoar has been in on this. Let's look at the next one, which has a certain amount in common with Quaoar, I think. Makemake. Now, Easter Island was called Rapa Nui, and I prefer that just to honor the tradition of that. Way out in the middle of the sea, way off the coast of Peru, way in the middle of nowhere. And there's a lot of misunderstanding about this culture, because they're largely known for these huge statues that they carved, and then the story is that they cut down all their trees to be able to move these statues across the island to where they wanted them to be. Now, no traditional culture would do that. So there's a different story that we need to remember and to honor what this culture created, like a whole, almost like permaculture, integrated ecology in their ability to grow things and live in this island self-sufficiently way out in the middle of the ocean. And there's a...
Sorry to interrupt. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you tell me whenever you want to tell, kick in here some of your insights. I'd love that.
Yeah, it's just as I understand it, and let me know if this is correct. I understand that they went through a very big period of disease, because the European traders arrived with rats on the ship and European diseases, and they got very sick. And at one point they were, and also I think the slave trade was involved, and eventually they were down to about 150 people living on the island. The population was absolutely decimated. And yet they could still regenerate and recover from extreme devastation. So there's great hope in this, isn't there?
Yes, I think they are still struggling in a way with the level of interest and tourism that comes to their island. But yes, they're reviving and reminding us of that capability. There was also a video I saw by an archaeogeologist who had done some research in Rapa Nui and uncovered that there was likely a tsunami that also created ecological havoc for them, not too far from, their discovery by the Western world and the removal by the British of one of their special carvings, which was the Birdman god that was hidden from view, and some spies followed the people when they were, and it looked just like this illustration here, and had, the carvings were about honoring elders, revered elders who had died. And so a lot of these moai were actually portraits, sculptural portraits of their revered elders. And that the bottoms of the statues, many of which are buried very deep, they're not just heads, that they had a curved bottom, and that if you attached a lot of ropes and had some strong men, you could walk the statues across the island, these huge couple of tons, so that's part of their mythology, their story. They talk about the statues walking to their place. So this, again, this story is very different, from what we've heard. And the Birdman cult, we could say, or mystery and ritual, was that each year when the terns came to nest on this small island right across a kind of water channel, that they would choose, each of the clans on the island would choose their strongest warrior, who would then swim across, find an egg, put it in this little kind of, basket to secure it while they swam back across to Rapa Nui, climbed up this very steep cliff, and put this egg into the hands of their chieftain. And whoever did that first, that clan, the chief of that clan, was the ruler for that year. I think that story is true.
Wow. It's so interesting, Kelley, what you were saying about the theft of something so precious, because that brings in a sense of violation and the importance of actually honoring tribal traditions. How do you feel about that?
Absolutely. I think there's some petitioning going on. I haven't looked recently to the status of that, but of the Rapa Nui people asking the British Museum to bring back, their statue.
So it's so interesting, isn't it, for our times with Pluto and Capricorn, revealing any corruption in top-down large structures, because that does feel like a violation of something very precious to the tribal people, very sacred, in fact. And it's that we've got to go back to, the sacred and the ancestral ceremonies, really. It's that we're going back to with these Kuiper Belt objects. Do you feel?
Yes, and in Libra, where Makemake is now, it's like proper relationship, it's reestablishing proper relationship between different cultures, between different cultural integrity of there's a term Ayla, I'm not sure if it's Ayla or Ayla, Ayla, that the Peruvian people talk about, that means right relationship with everything, with all our relations, so to speak, with the mountains, with the rocks, with our neighbors, with the plants, with the soil. So Makemake is asking for that now, to find the proper balance and the justice, let us say, also in those scales of Libra, so that we are in proper relationship with each other.
And it has a it has a regenerative quality like Haumea as well. Very connected to nature, the similarities there.
Yes, it does. And I think there might have been another aspect to the rituals that I don't totally understand or know. And I also think that not only did they use ropes to walk those statues across the island, but probably sound and that other kind of energy that we have forgotten kind of how to use. So everyone should just check out where their Makemake is when they were born. It's almost 20 or so years in a sign, maybe more, I guess more. And it's in Libra for a while. So we have this particular alignment of these three energies coming in, and Makemake is following Haumea, who's just finishing up her stay in Libra. So she's been working on relationship also.
And
it's also, go ahead.
Sorry, Kelley. When does Haumea move into Scorpio? It's this year.
In November, this year in November.
And
I don't think it stays. I think it goes back and forth, but wow, already.
Wow, because Scorpio can really bring up a lot of the toxicity to clear and cleanse, can't it? So maybe Haumea has that function too when she dips into Scorpio. It's part of the ecological recovery, perhaps.
Yes, and it's going, talk about the chaos, at the heart of chaos is the seed of renewal. And she's diving down deep to find that seed of renewal and gestate it. So that's going to be a very interesting passage of Haumea through Scorpio.
Wonderful.
So we have Makemake in Libra from it transitioned, it took a couple of years from 2013, and it's staying there into the mid 2045, 2045, 46 there. So we get to work with this energy for a while in, reestablishing proper relationship to tradition, to other peoples, and in our own relationships too. Renewal, rebirth, revisiting in the face of disaster. I mean, this also speaks to some of the themes of Sedna, which is about deep ecology. Yeah. And also the community leadership, because, this ritual was about choosing the leader. And it wasn't he wasn't like campaigning, right? He was, his hero was, kind of proving the strength of the clan to be able to be the clan of leadership in any year. So yeah, some of these rituals that can be very informing to how we move on in community.
Yeah.
So we put these together in this T-square, and we get a pretty interesting activation. And again, all of them concern the sea. There's Salacia, she's the queen of the sea. She's also kind of aligning with the sun energy, the life force, because she is helping the sunlight to sparkle on the sea. And I was exploring with some sketches like how she would do that. And this is one way that I came up with, which aligns her with a solar goddess even. And she's really connecting the sun and that life force. And I also have another sketch in progress where she's under the water and she's inviting down, she's reaching up for the sunlight to come down.
Wow. And the sun.
So I think we're more like that.
I think the sun also can have a cleansing action, almost a disinfectant action, so a detoxifying energy. So there seems to be a lot, as you say, Kelley, around the sea and the clearing up of our seas in a way that we never had to face, in our lifetimes before, that will be very productive.
Yes, and sunlight with all that vitamin D that we need for our immune system and all of the ultraviolet rays that we can't see, but we really need those. Yes. I have trouble being in the dark for too long. So
yes, don't live in England.
I have a bit of the mermaid in me.
I love what you say, Kelley. You bring it down from the invisible. I love what you said about that. We bring it down from ether, from nothing, that we can then co-create and go through those stages of stepping it into our reality. I find that incredibly empowering for us. So exciting. You know, we're no longer the victim. We're stepping into co-creator mode in a much bigger way with these Kuiper Belt objects.
Yes. You know, we talk about a relationship between 5D and 3D. And that's what we're tapping into when we can. And the sense of ether having both a non-physical and physical aspect. Ether is the medium of transformation, you know, into manifestation. So we all have an etheric body, and that is getting really charged up by these energies and by Salacia's sparkling photon waves and the solar flares and all of that going on. So, you know, if we can breathe into and dance with our extended bodies, we can feel that energy maybe more present in the way we're living.
And Kelley,
one of the reasons So please go on. I had another whole thought I wanted to introduce.
Oh, sorry, hang on, you mustn't lose it. But you know, it seems that when these planets were discovered around about the turn of the century, the millennium, it seems that part of their purpose is to bring in new information for us. And when I was talking to Heather Ensworth, she said that Sedna, and she's very much into the large cycles of consciousness that she studies, she said Sedna goes all the way out to the Oort cloud to bump up against other star systems. And Sedna is currently at its closest point to the Earth. So it's bringing in new information from those distant star systems as well. Which is
and it's right at the end of Taurus, which is where the North Node has been. You know, Sedna's been aligning with the North Node at its closest point. That's another profound, like, wow, this is extraordinary choreography.
Yeah.
And what I love about the language of astrology is that, you know, talking with you, here we are kind of in dialogue and sharing, you know, our thoughts about this information and these new energies, and new thoughts arise. And, you know, doing readings with people, it's like that too. You're engaged with the cosmic field and, you know, looking at that chart, there are new thoughts that arise after more than 50 years of being an astrologer. I love that someone's energy, especially in this time we're in, this unprecedented time.
Yeah. That,
you know, especially after this last equinox shift, like, whoa, that there's new ideas, new ways of interpreting. And I don't want to like be too hasty to astrologically define what these Kuiper Belt objects are about. We need them to tell us, you know, what they're about. And these wordings and phrases I'm sharing are just suggestions based on some of the mythology and ways to think about it that are just starting points.
Wow, because if we are becoming, which I profoundly believe, more wave and less particle, there's a sort of wave coming in here, isn't there? There's a tapestry which we're forming, that we're weaving with just much higher frequency energy in a way that we've never been able to do it before, because everything has been so dense and tangible in our lifetime. So there's a magical weave happening here as you're sharing the information. It's really so hopeful and so positive. It's wonderful.
A couple of months ago, I had a client who was having a very strong and I didn't intend to bring Quaoar in, but Quaoar came right into her reading. She was having a very strong Quaoar transit, and she was in the Los Angeles area, and she was feeling stuck there because, you know, we had the shutdown stuff and she couldn't go anywhere. And so she was waiting until she could like go somewhere. And I said, well, you know, just go out to, you know, find some of the Tongva places. So she ended up going out to a marshland that was a nature preserve. And indeed, there were signs about the Tongva people there. And she hadn't expected that. She just like went out into nature just to get out there. And so she had a Quaoar experience.
Oh, beautiful. This is, this is very deep, isn't it? This work. It's really,
yes,
but it's very exciting. And I love the combination of picking up the ancient traditions, and often there's a very instinctive connection to nature, but it's also kind of leading edge quantum physics in the way that they're helping us manifest in the future. I love that combination.
Yes, a new realm of astronomical bodies. Yeah. Like when the outer planets were discovered, it was a whole new realm. And this is another whole new realm that's very timely for us at this time. So I like to introduce people to them because it seems like, oh my God, there's so much new stuff. We've got the asteroids, we've got all these, centaur objects, but hey, this is where it's at right now.
Wonderful.
So yeah, so that's part of this amazing new moon, this precise 777, alignment that is plugged right into this moon.
So Kelley, do you see that exact T-square as having a particular meaning for us at this new moon? Is it particularly related to the oceans and seas, which would link with the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction coming up?
That's true. That is absolutely true, because not all of the Kuiper Belt mythologies have the sea. A lot of them do seem to. And I think they're also connected to the as traditional peoples are very connected to their lands. Mm-hmm. So the specific places that are being honored, Easter Island, Rapa Nui, the whole ocean with Salacia is very in on it. Salacia is going to be finally conjuncting Neptune. I think it's a couple of more decades. This doesn't happen very often. She is very elusive. And I think it happens, I think she's still in Aries when that happens, but I kind of forget. I have an article on my website about my journey discovering the Kuiper Belt objects, and Salacia is one of the stories I give about my experiential journey into this realm, and finding out like when that actually happens. But as you say, the water energy, the sea, of great concern is, having good waters of life. And some of the I heard a Hopi elder talk about how when we die, the waters in our body go back up into the clouds. And then when it rains, our waters are then helping regenerate nature and supply the water needed for life. And that water is such an element that can never be destroyed.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's really, really beautiful. So it really is highlighting seas, oceans, and water as a theme at this new moon, isn't it? Big time, especially with Jupiter and Neptune being so closely in conjunction. I think they're only 4.5, 5 degrees apart at the moment, but it's on the track,
Yes, and this new moon leads us right into that extraordinary conjunction.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if Salacia also, because she makes the sea to sparkle, kind of refers to the message of water and the shape of the molecules that need to be in their sacred geometry, rather than the polluted distortions, and that maybe her energy can kind of help. Yes, yes.
Emoto,
yes.
I met him a couple of years before he died. Yeah, incredible. Oh, wow. And the importance of therefore mastering our emotions and our thoughts in order to always produce beautiful symmetrical geometry in the water.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Now, along that line, Pam, I was really focusing on the 777 alignment. And then I realized there's something that fills in the fourth corner of this T-square. And I just had to bring it in. And so here we are looking at that T-square again with the fourth corner filled in by Black Moon Lilith. There's been a lot of interest in Lilith, and especially in the Black Moon. So I expect that some listeners are familiar with the Black Moon Lilith. This is the true Black Moon. She can have a mean average motion that a lot of people use in defining where Lilith is, but the true motion has a lot of retrograding. She's like a belly dancer. So this is the true position.
Well,
and she's at 11. I've written a lot about Lilith. She made me do it. I have the Black Moon in my 9th house, like she made me do it. Because I felt it was so daring of me to write about Lilith, that's such a very nuanced, subtle energy. But look at it in this new moon. It's 2 minutes away from exactly squaring the new moon.
And it's in water.
And it's feeling in that, yes. And you were just talking about, working with our emotions.
Yeah. And
so here is the lesson of the Black Moon Lilith. And if people don't know about the Black Moon Lilith, here's what it is. It's not a moon. It's not even a body. The Black Moon is very intimately connected to the moon's orbit around the Earth. And if the orbit of the moon was a perfect circle with the Earth in the middle, no orbits are that way. They're elliptical. So they're 2 what they call focal points that make up the ellipse. And so the Earth is one of those points, and this empty focus, which is, I don't know, we call it a vortex. What do we call it? This mathematical point that's so intimately connected to the Earth-Moon orbit, and therefore our incarnation. Because I think of the moon as being the womb of the mother that grows our body and helps us incarnate on Earth. And so what would the Black Moon be? If it's not even a body, I think of it as the deep desire of the soul to incarnate. And it's not for a life purpose. It's not for a reason. It's to help free the soul through incarnation. And so it's a very different energy than the moon. And it's twice the nodal cycle that also has a mean and true position is twice as long as the Black Moon going through signs. It's a half of a nodal cycle. So it really is very connected to the Earth-Moon orbit in our experience of eclipses and of a challenge in our lives.
And how do
mythically,
sorry, Kelley, not to interrupt. Do you see her as quite a wild, instinctive creature with a deep connection to the earth? There's something very instinctive about her.
Yes, I think I like to use the word primordial in relation to Lilith. That, she was there before, but there's not a body here. And maybe it goes back to that erotic desire to be, and unfettered, unchained, like the deep feminine in her, like amazing capacity to bring forth, very Haumea-like in her way, but also challenging in the sense that she's such an ego buster. And she has a very nasty reputation as being a child killer, a seducer of men. She is said to be the woman-headed serpent who gave Eve the apple in the Garden of Eden. And there's even a sculpture of that at the front column of Notre Dame Cathedral. So was that a good thing or a bad thing? And that's the question. she absolutely pushes us beyond judgment about definitions of morality. And like, she's like non-judgment, non-duality even. So how do we get there? It's like, we certainly, it's like she's going to bust us out of any concept, any belief system, any, and that's the wild, unfettered aspect of her. Live your essence, living your soul truth, your essential personal brilliance. That's your direct, coming from your direct connection to the divine.
Wow.
And, this whole not judgment, I think of the motto of the Black Moon, if she has one, is it is as it is, like if the Black Moon is involved with relationships, you have to let that relationship be what it is and not to try to make it into something it's not, or you're going to really have a hard time. And there's going to be a lot of the darkness that comes out in, it's not pretty. But she's not pretty.
I love this. I love the way you're talking about her, Kelley, because essentially beyond judgment and beyond polarity is absolutely where we've got to get to, isn't it? To get
yes.
beyond war and poverty and fighting, otherwise we just go on and on through the centuries. So this is so inspiring, and her life force seems to be, quite with echoes of Salacia in there, and her life force in the sea as well. It's just beautiful. I mean, it's very inspiring. And
the cosmic sea.
The cosmic, absolutely. And if that cardinal grand cross is our inspiration at this new moon in Aries, where we've got to get to as a kind of compass needle, as it were. I mean, how exciting is that? How inspiring,
yes.
Is it? And gives us very good guidance where we've got to get to.
Well, and very close to squaring Chiron as well.
Yeah.
So she is offering an avenue to healing, offering, and this is in Cancer. We have to break through our dependencies, our attachments. This is a very emotional aspect, but not in the, like Cancer, I have a Cancer moon, I can cry, like tears fall out of my eyes sometimes. And so it's a very strongly feeling sign, but the Black Moon is saying no attachment, like let it go, let it be what it is and what it wants to grow into, which is the essential nature of Cancer, of growth, feeding and giving and nurturing.
And it's quite like Uranus in Taurus, no attachment, shake up.
And it's in a nice alignment. It's in a nice sextile to Taurus. Yeah, to the Uranus and Taurus right now. So and it also, Cancer can take things personally, and the Black Moon is very impersonal. Not in exactly the same way as Uranus is, which is a kind of a higher mind witnessing, but an impersonality that goes back to it is as it is. No use arguing with it. No use wanting something that it's not. And so really working with our feelings to, in my Cancer moon has a real prickly pear side, and often I'm going to say no before I say yes, because that shell, a protection. And so it's like letting the giving and receiving be open and defined in a way that is connecting to our authentic self, soul self. So we can't be free when we have attachments.
Yeah.
We can't be exploring these new dimensions and trails, you know, and the cosmic consciousness if we, you know, want to go back to the past or engage too much in memories. You know, maybe we're forgetting things for a good reason.
And
so
these they have a completely different quality, don't they? A completely different feel that's so high frequency and so away from the density and the routines and the attachments that we've had up to now. It's just a whole quantum leap, isn't it, to another realm of being, another state of being. That's what I hear you describing, which is so exciting.
Yeah, this is the mystery, the deep mystery of the dark goddess. And, you know, she has these aspects like Kali. She'll cut away what is no longer life-giving and vital, which sounds very much like the Black Moon in Cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something we know not that is moving in ways we know not. You know, there's the deep mystery, and the Black Moon is something like the desire of the soul to be free, and that every life form is like desiring the divine. And so let this desire arise and move in your life.
Beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. There's such a life force and a spiritual force behind these, Kelley. It's absolutely beautiful. Just a technical question. What orbs are you using for the conjunctions, squares, oppositions, etc.? What orbs are you operating with? Because these move so slowly.
Oh, yeah, the Kuiper Belt Objects. I don't know. I'm being intuitive about that. I mean, this was an exact 777. You can't, can't dispute that. But you know, I'm pretty generous with orbs, because I think, you know, there's this waxing energy, right? Like we're having with Jupiter and Neptune right now. And then we're going to have the exactness, and then we're going to have the waning energy.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a moving into feeling it and attuning into it, and then incorporating it, kind of like a moon cycle. And that these cycles are so long that we're engaging with these energies for a period of time. And it's a collective consciousness energy also, that's beyond the outer planets, except for Pluto, who I really do count as a Kuiper Belt object. You know, the forerunner. And we've got to go through that, say, like the dark underworld, where we might encounter Lilith, the Black Moon, to get to the creator consciousness of the other Kuiper Belt objects. Initially, they were naming them for underworld gods and goddesses. And then they realized, we're going to run out of those. We have to like find another mythology. Let's go global, which I think is fabulous.
But what I love about them as well, Kelley, is so many of them are named after creator gods. You know, we keep coming back to being a co-creator in this whole process. And that's what's so exciting, that we're on the brink of a real step change for humanity. Yes. It's almost becoming the human in the most natural, organic way, just stepping into our spiritual destiny, if you like, with these Kuiper Belt.
Yes, absolutely. And it's taking us beyond the Greco-Roman mythology into a whole different, wider, I don't know, can we say truer, you know, realm that is going to bring us back to our origins and our co-creative potential that we've sort of like surrendered.
Yeah. That's why it's so powerful at this time, to remind people of their sovereignty and their own empowerment. That's, you know, one of the many things I love about them. And so we're just over an hour now, Kelley. Anything else you'd like to share with us?
Oh, well, just reminding that the Lilith aspect is different than the Kuiper Belt, but it's also like, I think, deeply embedded certainly in our earthly experience, but it can tap into, anything. And here's one of the symbols, the Shri Yantra of the goddess, that's much like the flower of life with these interpenetrating geometries that vibrate, and have the frequency and have the energy and have the light codes and, just invite us into a new level of ecstasy.
Wow. It's a beautiful image, Kelley, really exquisite image. Gosh, this has just it's been so informative, but also so inspiring. I can just feel everybody's frequency sort of increasing as they watch this. You've been really, really magnificent in sharing.
Well, I so appreciate this invitation to share this, and to, anytime I'm doing something presenting about the Kuiper Belt, something new comes in that I hadn't been aware of before. And, I work with the Black Moon a lot. I put her in all the charts. I can't believe I was ignoring her to begin with. And so the goddess is present, and the Holy Mother, in a way, maybe the Holy Mother is part of the Black Moon in Cancer energy. I've been really feeling that Holy Mother energy quite a lot, and love that the Kuiper Belt gods and goddesses are demonstrating the strength of both the masculine and the feminine in this kind of cooperative dance, let us say.
So rebalancing that Makemake was talking about in Libra. Absolutely. It's been absolutely beautiful, Kelley. You've shared so richly with us. And I think you're going to send through some information, which I'll put under the video if people want to get in touch with your work and follow you more closely, because you really are kind of one of a kind out there. You are very rare as an astrologer, exploring these new lands for us and acting as a kind of John the Baptist for us with these.
Well, as you said, you got so excited about them, and I did too. And I especially wanted the children born with these energies to know about them. Oh. And that's why I did my Planetary Gods and Goddesses coloring book to, which we just saw some images from, to introduce these. And that was basically a good part of my research along the way. And I haven't engaged all of them for sure, because there's some new ones, one from Africa, there's Gong Gong from China. I mean, I think they really are trying to get, the astronomers, thanks to them, they're getting a global, a real global representation here.
So your research is just going on all the time. You're digging deep, because I know there are just dozens of them out there, aren't there? And you're continuing to research new ones all the time.
I'm staying with my original roster, except I can't help it if a new one's discovered, like the Aardvark woman in Africa. I have to just look into it a little bit.
You're wonderful. You're
thanks.
Great service for astrology, and great service for mankind as well, humankind.
Well, and you too, Pam. You too. I appreciate your sharing my work and being a colleague, in this consciousness raising moment.
Yeah, bless you. You've been absolutely magnificent. Thank you so much, Kelley. And I know people will absolutely love this. Bless you.
Yay.
Until we meet again. Bless you.